I've heard you state in the past that you don't believe that the Box Nation channel, the kind of model, is financially viable in this country. Does this mean that, say for example, when I spoke to Ricky Hatton the other week and asked him the same question, does this mean you'd outrule the potential of a boxing channel, like an exclusive boxing channel on Sky that's sort of similar to the F1 channel, for example, if you continue to do what you're doing, which is make the sport thrive and grow in the UK? Could we potentially one day see something like that?
Yeah, the facts and numbers don't lie. There isn't the demand for a boxing-only channel.
Yeah.
It's not to say Box Nation aren't doing a good job. They've got some great fights on there. But the numbers show there isn't the demand. I don't think the sport is at a stage yet where we can have its own channel. You know, there are sports that drive subscribers and there are sports that don't. And F1, as a classic example, is a sport that drives subscriptions. There are Formula One fans that would subscribe to Sky for purely Formula One and for that channel. Boxing, there aren't as many, or even anywhere near as many. Darts, there might be none. Do you know what I mean? And this is fascinating because you look at darts. Darts is the second highest rating sport on Sky after football. Right? Yet how many people subscribe to Sky for the darts? Minimal. How many people subscribe to Sky for boxing? Minimal. How many people subscribe to Sky for F1? Plenty. How many people subscribe to Sky for rugby league? Plenty. It's a different. The darts figures are much higher than the rugby league figures. But it's all about driving subscriptions. This is a business, and if you can't get the subscription numbers to pay for the running costs and the rights fees of a certain sport-only channel, the model doesn't work. So, in answer to your question, perhaps in 10 years, a boxing-only channel might work, but we're not at that stage in the sport yet.
I was going to say as well, I heard you mention in a recent, by the way, Eddie, tell me if you're getting bored or what have you. I've loads of questions for you. But in a recent interview with Coogan, I heard you discuss for the first time ever that you'll exit the game when it no longer enthralls you. Now, obviously, at this moment in time, it's very clear when anyone sees you that you exude passion and enthusiasm for boxing. So presumably this kind of time is a long way off, isn't it? I'd like to think so. I mean, I've got a very clear sort of motto in business and life, which is no passion, no point. And the moment I'm a salesman, and the moment you don't believe in what you're selling, the moment you're no longer a great salesman. So, and people on Twitter take a piss. Oh, he's a car salesman. He's this. He's that. I wouldn't say I was a car salesman, but I have sold double glazing before, and I was quite good at that as well. But when you've got the right product, it's easy to sell. So Fox Groves, could anyone have sold that out? I'd like to say no, but probably. Do you know what I mean? It's not just because I'm a great promoter that we sold 80,000 tickets, because it's a great fight. It might be that we've built the sport to be more popular and more hype and buzz for the sport that helped sell those out in 51 minutes. So the answer to your question is I don't know when that passion will disappear. I've had passion for the sport of boxing since I first stepped into a gym, probably at the age of 9 or 10. And it hasn't gone. But I don't think I'll ever lose a passion for the sport. But will I lose a passion for the business of the sport is another question. If you become disillusioned, disheartened, the dynamics change, the landscape change. And other promoters criticised my old man in the past and said, oh, he turned his back on boxing. No. He did less shows because he moved to other sports that were more financially beneficial. So, and that's what you have to do. You can't stay in a sport and give 100% of your commitment to a sport that isn't delivering for you financially, because you've got to make money. It's a business as well. But at the moment, my passion for boxing is more than any other sport within our company, and I'm not going anywhere. But the moment I sit down at a fight and I'm not buzzing, or I'm not excited, or I'm driving to a show thinking, oh God, is the moment something's not right. And I'm just honest at the fact that I don't know when that'll be. I don't envisage it being
in a year, 2 years, or maybe even 5 years. But beyond that, there may be a moment where I say, you know, we're done, and you know, I just feel like we're trying to do the right things, and there'll always be obstacles, but you know, it's how many times you want to overcome those obstacles.
Yeah, and I've recently interviewed sort of Gareth A. Davis, Joe Gallagher and Ricky Hatton, and I've asked them all the same question about yourself, about how you've kind of made major inroads into the world of boxing as a promoter, and how you've successfully endeavoured.
You got their answers there?
Yeah, I do have some of the responses. I can remember them, but yeah, no, I mean, you know, how you've successfully endeavoured to kind of rejuvenate British boxing. You know, if we're looking at it and we're talking about the fundamentals, that's what you've tried to do, and successfully so. They all agreed with me. You'll be happy to know. They all concurred. So I wanted to ask you, I mean, you've sort of cited a couple of ideas you have in mind of how you're going to take the business forward of boxing, and how you're going to make boxing grow in this country, you know, with the online streaming, for example, and other ideas you mentioned. So what other kind of aims do you have moving forward for British boxing?
I'm always thinking, I mean, the main aim is to make the bigger fights, and that's not rocket science. Yeah. You know, if you're making big fights, then you're going to fill arenas, and you're going to keep fans and broadcasters happy. We need a solid growth within the development of the game, and I believe that young kids don't necessarily want to grow up to be a fighter. I'm not sure if they ever did. You know, when I was, I think, 12, I was boxing at Billericay Boxing Club, and you know, I watched Leonard and I watched Hagler and Hearns, and yeah, I loved them, but I didn't necessarily want to be them. You know, and I'm not saying that we need all kids to want to be fighters, but I think we need role models, and we need to break through into the amateur mould as well, and grow the sport and increase the participation levels, which is what's happening at the moment. But we need people like Anthony Joshua, we need people like Luke Campbell, who are absolutely perfect to grow the game. And you can imagine a young kid going into the gym saying, I want to be like Anthony Joshua, or I want to be like Luke Campbell. So we've got a chance with people like that. So that's one thing. I want to, you know, I did an article in the Daily Mail the other day where I want to try and drive as much politics out of the sport as possible. That's probably the most difficult thing, but there's no reason why promoters can't work together. The main issue is the broadcaster, and some people have got exclusive deals where, you know, for one reason or other they can't fight on another channel, and you know, I understand all those, but I think ultimately there's always a way around everything. So, you know, in terms of what are my plans are to keep making great fights, to try and rejuvenate the grassroots element of the game, to try and ensure that the politics in the sport, whether it be with other promoters or broadcasters or governing bodies, are eradicated as much as possible where it affects the making of a great fight. To make sure that we sustain the commitment from our broadcaster. Without Sky Sports, I dread to think what state boxing would be in this country, especially over the last 5 years. So we need to keep them interested. So I need to drive viewing figures. I need to make the look and feel of events be one that when you turn on, you go, wow, look at this is great, look at the atmosphere, look at the people. You know, like we do with darts. So there's plenty, you know, there's lots to do. You know, we've only just got started, really. We're miles away to where I think we can take the sport, miles away.
And then you mentioned sort of viewing figures as well. I mean, how does a Saturday night event rack up against, say, for example, Madrid, Barcelona when they play football?
It depends on, I mean, you know, if you look at a Premier League game, you know, ratings of a Premier League game for a poor game will be around 1 million. You know, Carl Froch against Lucien Boutte, which was one of the highest ratings, I think it was around 700 or 800,000. Ricky Hatton did over 1 million buys when he boxed Floyd Mayweather, and that was on pay-per-view. I think Froch Groves may do 1 million. I mean, you're talking about a subscription channel, so the viewing figures are always going to be smaller. But it's an audience that probably has more disposable income, is more relevant to commercial partners, as opposed to, say, you know, a Channel 5 fight, which, you know, De Gale was doing, averaging 700 and peaking at 1.5, sometimes more million. And the recent stuff peaks at 700 or 800,000. So big numbers, but not necessarily the right profile of audience. But our viewing figures for boxing are increasing quite significantly over the last 18 months. So at the moment, Sky are happy. But obviously, you know when you've got a great, I mean, you know, for instance, the Bill Saturday with Murray, Crawler and Quigg, that's going to rate well. You know, if you go and do more of a trade show, if you like, it won't rate as well. But it will keep the hardcore happy. And that's something you know, you've got to bear in mind, is there's two audiences here. There's the hardcore boxing audience and there's the casuals. The hardcore boxing audience, which are the people that are going to be watching this interview, are a small minority of the overall audience. And they probably won't like that, but that's the truth. But the only way we make boxing bigger is to keep the hardcores happy, but also to grow that casual element as well. And it's the only way we can make sport, the sport, huge, to bring in new audiences. And prize fights is a good example of that, where the casuals love it and the hardcore don't.
And sort of discussing UFC before, it was something that struck me when I was driving here today. I was thinking when I was thinking of the question, have you ever watched The Ultimate Fighter, the reality UFC show? Have you ever watched one of those?
Yeah, very good.
Have you ever thought, I mean, logistically, I don't know if it could actually work in boxing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they've done the Contender, you know, series as well, and you know, I think it's a great product. The main problem we've got is that for all the budget available to boxing at the moment from the broadcaster, we want to put that into Saturday Night Fight Nights themselves. So I don't think there'd be the budget at the moment for a broadcaster to spin off and say, yeah, actually, we want to plough a load of money into this new reality style show. Because if there is any spare money, I want it for additional dates to grow our team. So, but you know, all those kind of things are great for the sport, and that show is one that I watched, Contender. You know, I was hooked on that, and even Ultimate Fighter, I've watched that, and I'm not even into UFC.